Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our second live broadcast of the We Are the University campaign. Launch week launched our materials. This week, we are launching into Vice Chancellors and all forms of hypocrisy that we see across the higher education sector. Joining me on screen now is our UCU President-elect, Dovrig Jones. Hello, Dovrig. And joining us later will be Dan Cutts from Aberdeen University and Amy Pritchard from Bangor University, where UCU members are facing battles on all fronts, whilst Vice Chancellors seem to be doing just fine financially. So we will get to the start of this session, but before we do, I want you to let us know where you are watching from. I also want you to let us know of any particular Vice Chancellor hypocrisy that you are experiencing. So are we getting vanity building project announcements during redundancy battles? Are they pleading poverty whilst opening overseas campuses? And of course, if you're aware of it, do let us know what your VC pay / remuneration package is. So we are balloting and we have to get angry about it. And we have to make sure that other people are angry too. But what is there to get angry about? Well, we are told that 1.4% is all the employer can afford. We are told that we literally have to suck up thousands and thousands of redundancies across the sector. We see insecure employment in every single workplace. In fact, modern universities have built business models utterly reliant upon it. But then at the very same time, you're going to see a league table like the one that we're going to put on screen shortly, and you may not be able to see it on all of your devices. So I'm going to read some of the names and their remuneration packages from it. So if we could get the slide up. So we have London Metropolitan University, £595,000 is the remuneration package of London Met's Vice Chancellor. The University of Cambridge, £577,000. London Business School, 575,000. Oxford, 573,000. LSE, 528,000. The list goes on. We go all the way down to 20. Nottingham Trent, £407,000. The average Vice Chancellor salary is £340,000, and that has increased £40,000 in the last few years. Dovrig, I'm going to bring you in here. I don't know about you, but when I see UCU members on endless insecure contracts, barely making enough to pay the rent, being told they have to lose their jobs because the institution's tightening its purse strings, how does that make you feel?
Oh, it makes me livid, and I think, do you mean we all feel the same when we see these massive figures, don't we? Because look, we know that sorting out Vice Chancellor's pay by itself isn't going to solve the financial crisis in the sector, but it's what these massive salaries symbolize. When you're on those kind of numbers, 500,000 plus 400,000, 300,000, 250,000. Do you mean these people that earn that amount of money, they just live on an entirely different planet to the rest of us? These are people that, if you're earning that much in a year, you don't need to worry about financial security, about job security, about what's going to happen to your mortgage, to your rent. None of those have to be issues when you're on those big numbers. And it just means that they're completely divorced from the reality of working in HE, which is the reality for the rest of us. So yeah, it makes me unbelievably angry. And I think the worst thing is that, if there was any kind of performance related element to it, you would maybe think, all right. But a lot of these people are being paid vast sums of money to do an absolutely terrible job. And I think if we're going to talk about Vice Chancellor pay, maybe we say, you keep your university, in the black. You make sure that not a single person is walking out the door by means of redundancy, that you are not using a single casualized contract, that you are paying the decent pay every year. then, we can talk about these big numbers. But these are people that are failing at their jobs and they're still walking away with incredible amounts of money every year.
Some absolute excellent points there. And I think some metrics that our members could get behind. We have a comment from Joe that we want to respond to. Let me just read that. I'm in Northampton, where the university made myself and hundreds of others redundant, while the VC takes home a bigger pay package than the VC of Manchester University. I mean, tale as old as time. It's not the pay, it's the inflation-busting pay rises they get. 100%. We've lost 30% in real terms since 2011, and the VCs have not. The anger has already started. And as I say, some metrics there, Dovrig, that I think a lot of people could get behind. Run your institution successfully, then we can talk. The truth is, though, anger is one thing, but we are getting close to these ballot papers landing on people's doors. How are we going to get the message out there to our members, Dovrig?
Well, I mean, the answer to that is it's not one answer, really, is it? Like, if we're going to make sure that we cross threshold on this ballot, that we're able to take action to fight back, then we need to be reaching members in every possible way. And that means, the kind of thing that we're doing here tonight. So, live streaming, using social media. So we've got a WhatsApp channel for the dispute where, we can share content there, sharing it in your social media platform. So wherever you are, wherever your colleagues are, wherever your friends are, whichever platform it is, making sure that you are getting the message out there day after day after day, so that people can't say that they have forgotten that there's a ballot going on, because you are hammering them like day after day with a message. But also, like, we've got to use the kind of personal connection. So that is, one-to-one conversations, going out there, speaking to colleagues. If they're not UCU members, you get them to sign up to the union. If they are members, you make sure that they have returned their ballot and that you're ticking them off the list. You go around, you knock doors on all of your colleagues, you make sure that they cannot escape from the ballot. And also, not just the one-to-one, but the collective. So having branch meetings. I know not everybody loves branch meetings, but, at a time like this, I think getting us all together, getting us to share experiences, bringing colleagues along, bringing new people along, getting them to join up, getting them to see that we can offer a little bit of hope in the darkness is really essential, I think.
Great answer. And we've made a lot of graphics exposing Vice Chancellor pay. We'll show you some of them in a minute, but we wanted to take another question that a member. How are these enormous salaries justified? Even if an institution works well, these are still crazy numbers. Dovrig.
I can't answer that question. There's not a reasonable answer to that question. I mean, look, and I think about where I live in Bangor, North West Wales. It's an area of like significant deprivation. The leader of the local authority, Gwynedd, gets, I think, something like 120, 130,000, a lot of money, a huge amount of money where we live. But that person runs a local authority that serves 120,000 people. He commands a budget of over 100 million a year. He is there looking after the real bread and butter stuff, social services, schools, roads, bins. And this person, does an incredible job for half of what our Vice Chancellor gets paid, less than half of what our Vice Chancellor gets paid. There's no reasonable answer that says, I don't think there's a reasonable answer to how you can justify these salaries.
I completely agree with you. And another staggering statistic, taking into account that the average Vice Chancellor salary is £340,000, when you take into account that the lowest salary in most universities is roughly £22,000, that's a pay ratio of about 1 to 16, which means your Vice Chancellor is most likely being paid more by 2/3 of the way through January than your lowest paid staff. And in institutions where we just read where the salary is £570,000, the remuneration package, they're getting paid more by like the first week in January. it is not justifiable by any measure, and particularly not when you think, most students will probably remember the porters and the cleaners that looked after them and did way more for them during their time in university. I think we've got another question about new members. So if we are trying to get new members to join, we're going to be able to announce all of the ballot details very shortly. But mid-November would be when I would be saying new members need to join the union to be able to participate in the vote. And we definitely should be using this ballot as a recruitment opportunity to, as you know, and Dovrig said that, to be getting people in the union and showing them that we are the vehicle for positive change. So we had some graphics that I wanted to share with you that we've had done about vice chancellors. So I'm just wondering if we can get them on the screen. So the statistics that I've just been saying to you: average vice chancellor pay 340, 16 times the lowest paid. Enough is enough, vote yes. So these are the types of graphics. This is, breaking it down. Average Russell Group 327, so that's 15 times the salary of the lowest paid. And here's just a nice one that we put together. Portsmouth University. There we've got lovely Professor Graham Galbraith, Vice Chancellor of Portsmouth. His salary increased to 320 from £312,000 last year. This is the type of person that thinks it's fine to impose a pay award of 1.4%, which is another pay cut for university staff. And as we saw from an amazing comment earlier, that's essentially, we've seen an erosion of 25% of pay for university staff, 30% of pay in the last 15 years. So Dovrig, this session is good. Obviously, you've been fantastic so far. Social media plays an incredibly important role. It does. But ballots are won in the workplace. We have already dispatched our second lot of campaign materials to our branches so that they can, populate their workplaces with those materials and really remind people that there's a ballot. What would your message to our branches be? And also, before you say that, there is 1,000 people watching right now. So hello to everyone.
Oh, I mean, that's incredible. And I think, it shows us the direction of travel, doesn't it? Because when we were doing this last week, it wasn't 1,000 people, it was less than that. So we're bringing people along with us. And I think that's the key thing, isn't it? Like, we're not going to get over the line with this ballot by expecting other people to do it. I sometimes I've heard somebody talk about, sometimes othering the union. You think about it as something far away that somebody else does. So, we've got to work together and we've got to bring people along with us. So there's just over a week until the ballot opens, until envelopes start to land. And really the message there is for you to speak to as many people as possible. Making sure that they know about it, because for lots of people it's a really busy time, early weeks of teaching for lots of people. So remind them, and then you need to be giving them the hard sell. You need to be telling them that they should be voting and that they need to vote yes, because the biggest enemy of turnout is kind of lack of knowledge, really. We're all busy. And, we need sometimes somebody to give us a bit of a nudge and to get us moving along. I think it's really important to remember that the ballot is often won in the first 2 weeks. That's when most people vote. So if we can put our shoulder to the wheel for the next couple of weeks, we can get it done, relatively quickly. So, I think it's for every branch, every activist to really think about this, like, how are you going to reach as many people as possible? What is the best way for you to do it? Because we can talk here and we can advise, but at the end of the day, everybody knows their own branch, everybody knows their own colleagues, everybody knows what works best for them, whether that's knocking on doors, phone banking, big meetings, ballot committees, ballot ambassadors, whatever you think works best for you, get going with it is really the message.
Excellent. Thank you, Dovrig. Now I'm going to give you a rest for a second. And if you are watching, if the pay of some of the vice chancellors doesn't make you angry, Just imagine how you would feel if one of your bosses earned so much money that they couldn't even remember how much their remuneration package was. Let's watch this clip.
My salary has funded my lifestyle.
This is all first class only travel. This is all top hotels.
Did you say around the £418,000 figure?
That's the figure that's often quoted.
Did you get a 5% pay rise last year?
I did.
Did you get a 2.5% pay rise in January of this year?
I did.
You get paid more than the combined total of the First Minister of Scotland and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
That's the figure that's often quoted, but I wouldn't know because I just earn so much money. Dovrig. I remember watching Sir Peter Matheson's testimony, and it is not often I am lost for words, but not knowing how much you earn, that is staggering scenes, isn't it? But we all get angry and we all kind of like, talk about how baffling this is. But how do we turn these feelings into votes?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely never forgotten how much I get paid, and it's an amazing privilege, isn't it, to think that you don't have to worry about money at all at the end of the day. But, like I say, we've got to kind of mobilize this this kind of anger, because the danger is that we all feel this, right? We all feel angry. We all feel frustrated. We all feel like, the sector's falling apart around us. But then, that can really sort of turn into a feeling of despondency, can't it? And I think we just have to go out there and remind people that, like, this is how we're going to fix it. The system is not going to fix itself. It is up to us as a union, our fellow members, our colleagues, and every colleague is a potential member. It's up to us to get this sorted, and the way that we're going to do it is by winning this ballot.
Absolutely. We did play a video last week where Labour Party delegates, I'm voting yes. Well done. Sorry, I got carried away. So we played a video last week where Labour Party delegates were stunned by VC pay. That is on our socials now. Please go back and watch it. This is a common tale. Whenever anybody in the public learns about vice chancellors and that they exist, and then learns that they get paid such eye-watering sums, they are staggered. So we know the hypocrisy. We will expose it. But as we've said, always in life, what actually matters is what are we going to do about it? And I am here to say that UCU members, the only way we are going to deliver a better sector and a fairer workplace is by fighting for it. And that does start at the ballot box. And I can see from comments that have been coming in tonight that members are fired up, people committing to vote yes, people talking about their institutions. So let's go through some of the comments and let's see if we can help give some answers to some of those comments. Where are we hoping to find the money for salary increases from? Higher fees or funding from the government? I mean, I have something I could say to this, but I don't know if you wanted to say anything, Dovrig.
No, you go ahead, Joe.
So I think vice chancellors have played quite a clever trick in convincing the sector that there is no money. It is true that there are a handful of institutions that are in severe financial dire straits, and those institutions, at this moment in time, and they've been able to do this for several years now, they can negotiate a particular opt-out and a different timescale of paying salary increases to their staff. But from our research, from our analysis at UCU, universities on the whole can afford more than 1.4. They are choosing to make staff redundant as a kind of a first port of call in many circumstances. When we look at the reserves of institutions like Edinburgh, Edinburgh has substantial reserves, and yet it is choosing as a first port of call to try and make staff redundant. We saw this at Cardiff, where our branch was successful in pushing back against redundancies. Hundreds of millions of pounds in reserves, but universities looking to make staff pay the price for financial mismanagement. So we do believe as a union that we should have a more stable funding regime for universities, so that we can get out of this boom and bust. We do think that that should come from direct funding from government. There are methods that could be employed in the interim, such as student number controls, which we lobby the government all the time for, which would help, again, take away this boom and bust approach. So I don't think we should be looking towards higher fees. Higher fees is only going to increase the financial volatility and the boom and bust that we're seeing. We need a completely stable funding method. We need that from government, but we also need to be really clear that we have a lot of vice chancellors at the minute who are capitalizing on a crisis and using the general malaise to push through restructuring programs that they wanted anyway. So we've got something here from Brian, speaking directly, maybe cut some of the huge growth and expensive senior management positions that have ballooned over the last 20 years, doing nothing jobs. Dovrig, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, I mean, simply to say, yeah, I mean, we hear a lot, don't we, about, this need for efficiencies and so on. And but it's always us that are on the receiving end of those efficiencies. It's always, like you said, the jobs that matter are the ones that are always at risk. The kind of that great big tier, and it's not just vice chancellor salaries, it is the salaries of senior management who are in, if not on the 200, 300, 400,000, they're still on massive amounts of money. Those, curiously never seem to be under scrutiny, and there's never any push for efficiency there. But on the point about funding, as you said, we've been there, you've been going to see government, you've been pushing our case. But one of the things that I find really depressing is when we announced that we would not take this paltry pay offer, that we would be moving to dispute, one of the things that you see the employers organisation said was, well, we'll stop any collaboration with you on lobbying government. So, on the one hand, they're saying there's a crisis, they can't afford this. But when we say, look, come with us, let's make a common case for better funding, they walk away from that in an instant. They're not interested in it.
And that is because, and this is why our dispute is important, they have lobbied for this funding model. And they actually, in most cases, don't mind the competition. They don't mind that the sector is cannibalizing each other. And I'm just going to return to the University of Edinburgh. The University of Edinburgh, I think it's currently seeking to make £140 million worth of cuts. They have 2.7 billion in net assets. This is not a cash-strapped university. I'm not going to embarrass the principal there any further, but you can go online, you can look how much his expenses have been this year and where he has been going whilst university staff are facing redundancy. This is, this because you've lived it. I lived it before I was elected. Dovrig is living it currently at Bangor. Just how shocking university staff are treated. We've got a couple more questions, so I'm going to bring them up, or ask our tech team too. Our institution hasn't even implemented the paltry 1.4% pay deal. How are we supposed to get behind another national campaign on pay, which haven't been successful in the past? Dovrig?
Well, I mean, I'm in the same. We're in the same boat as you. The pay award last year was deferred for a year at Bangor. With this kind of argument about, well, we need to do this because otherwise they're going to put us in a financially perilous position. Then once they deferred it, they decided that they were going to make 200 plus people redundant. And I think that when the next round comes along, we're going to hear the same thing and the same thing and the same thing. So, I think I understand that this is kind of challenging and that people are going to be worried about it. But at the end of the day, at what point do you say no more? And I think that, we didn't call national action last year on pay, and it's not as if it's delivered anything to us. So I think, there is a need for us to take a firm stand and to say that, the future of the sector is in jeopardy, and we're not going to be able to just keep nodding along when they offer us, year after year pay settlements that are frankly insulting.
And I would really add to that, giving up on this isn't an option. As we've said, we've seen serious pay erosion in higher education over the last 15 years, 25 to 30%, depending on what you do and where you are. But what I also want to say, and I know I speak for Dyfrig when I say this as well, we are listening. We want to engage with you about tactics, about action. Dyfrig is the chair of our higher education committee. At the end of this ballot, we're going to have a consultation week. So I would really encourage you in your branches to start these conversations now. So thank you for the question. And if we could maybe have the next one, please. Sick of hearing our people are our best asset from VC when we've had below inflation pay rises for nearly 20 years. The response should be to withdraw any voluntary or discretionary support. Yeah. I don't know if you want to comment on that, Dyfrig. No.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very strong believer in, I think sometimes when we talk about taking action short of a strike and we talk about working to contract, and I think I only ever work to contract. Do you mean why would you ever give 1 second of your time more than you're getting paid for to an institution that simply does not value you? And I understand that that's sometimes difficult to hear, because I know for lots of us, this is a vocation. We love what we do. We love our students. We love our subjects, whatever it is that we do. But, we have given too much, and that kind of voluntary work, that working a bit more, that working weekends, that working evenings, once upon a time, there was some give and take. There was you felt you were getting something back, but we are giving, and they are taking. So I completely agree. We should not be, we should not be doing stuff that is goodwill, stuff that is voluntary, because we are not getting it back.
Absolutely. Is there another question, or is it time? Yep. You should provide this information, names, unis, and the salaries to all members of the union, sent via email link to all branches throughout the UK. This type of information is coming your way. We want you to be using this information in your branches to make sure that people are angry, to make sure that people are focused. The graphics that I showed you, we're making more of them. So for branches that are in ginchers, keep a lookout, and that's coming your way. I don't know if we have any more. Oh, this may be a basic question, but I'm fairly new. Are pay details publicly available online for HEIs, or is this an optional thing? Do people hide them behind privacy or anonymity to avoid criticism? So the pay details of vice chancellors and principals is available. It gets published by HESA, and then you'll normally see it in other kind of publications and news outlets, as is salaries for other groups. One thing that vice chancellors have done in more recent years is, in order to make the pay gaps that they have look not so horrific, they've started outsourcing certain types of low-paid workers, so it takes them off their books. So this sort of information is available, and I think, given the interest in this, we'll make sure that the next member email that we send out has more information about this and how you can get hold of it and what have you. So thank you for those questions, and thank you, Dyfrig. I thought that was an excellent back and forth, and I'm going to retire you for a second now. So thank you. And I'm really delighted to say that I am joined by Dan Cutts from Aberdeen UCU and Amy Pritchard at Bangor UCU. So welcome to the live, both of you. Thank you very, very much for coming along. It's brilliant to have you with us. And thank you as well for the hard work that you are doing and the support. Firstly, I'll start with you, Dan, but I'm going to ask the same question to you as well, Amy. If you could just outline for everyone who is watching and listening along, what is happening at your university?
So yeah, thanks for having me. So obviously we've been dealing with a number of difficulties over the last few years. There was an attempt to shut down our modern languages department. We had an amazing campaign, so many wonderful people getting involved in that, and we managed to fend that off. We've had 2 rounds of voluntary severance. We've also got a promotions freeze, a hiring freeze. So all of these issues are compounding. Obviously, workload is becoming a bigger problem, given the fact that people can't be replaced, and there's just less of us to do the work. So yeah, extremely challenging in a number of ways.
Thank you, Dan. And Amy, I was wondering if you could give us an overview of what's happening at Bangor.
Similar sort of situation, really. We've recently gone through massive restructuring, and we're still in risk of compulsory redundancies. There's over 200 members of staff have left the university in the last 12 months, either through voluntary severance, early retirement schemes, or just having had enough and quit. We have massive workload issues arising from poor planning, I would say, and a failure to think about how these cuts will actually operationally work on the ground. We've had threats, as Dan has said, to certain subject areas. Modern languages was targeted at Bangor, but not the only subject area. And yeah, that's where we are. I think all overworked, overwhelmed and exhausted, I think is where we are at Bangor at the moment.
And I can really hear it in your voice, and it's such a common story when I speak to UC members across so many branches. What I think would be interesting for people to hear, and I'll start with you, Amy, and then we can go to Dan. How are members coming together to support each other and to oppose this at Bangor? Oh, sorry. I was going to go to Amy, but our tech team went to Dan. So Amy.
So I haven't quite got the moustache, but there we go. Yeah, so I think everybody's battling through. So I think in the most part, everybody's, working together, trying to support each other. At Bangor, there's very much a feeling that, while one person is at risk of losing their job, everybody is at risk. But at the same time, the very process of going through compulsory redundancies and these types of changes, it does pit staff against one another. And I think that is part of some of the tactics that happen with executive teams. Colleagues are put in pools where they have to compete with people that they've worked with for decades for their jobs. So I think people are working very hard and fighting really hard to stay collegiate, but it's really, really difficult. So, there's lots of discussions, people meeting. I know that I'm involved in some groups that, that have sort of drop-in team sessions in the evenings and things like that for people that might want to just offload and vent or have problems. That's really how we're dealing with it at Bangor. And I have to say, we have a very, very small but mighty UCU committee at Bangor, and every single person on committee just punches way above their weight at the moment in supporting their colleagues.
Really, really lovely to hear that. And I think, small and mighty, but it sounds like you are really spreading collegiality and solidarity and keeping people going, which is so important. I know from, experience before when I've been involved in this in my branches, redundancy battles are so bruising. Dan, talk to us about how members both came together and are maybe still coming together at Aberdeen.
Yeah, so obviously during the modern languages situation, there was such a feeling of solidarity that was constructed, and we saw the success that could bring. In the current situation, obviously we're sort of holding our breath for the current restructuring that's coming. So we're all trying to sort of discuss and work out what's coming. We're waiting for the plans. Like we feel like it's, I don't want to say too much, but we're not sure what the future is going to hold with the new restructuring plan. And I mean, it feels like it's going to move to a marketized model, which is problematic. I mean, at the moment, we're just having our usual committee meetings, general meetings, speaking to people out and about. Obviously, people are worried. We're getting a lot of emails, messages from people about the concerns that they have about what's to come. But at the moment, we're being kept in the dark, which is obviously not a good place to be to mount sort of a direct challenge. But we know that we're effective with that, so we're waiting and ready.
Thank you. I have a question now. I want to bring this more to sort of the national ballot, because we have a chance to bring everyone together. And I just want you to kind of reflect on how important that is. And Dan, I know specifically you wanted to talk a bit about casualisation, and obviously part of this ballot is about job security. It's about those big issues in the sector that aren't going away. So if I could maybe come to you first about how we bring everyone together and how important that really is.
Yeah, so for me, I'm obviously a casualised worker. I mean, I've been teaching at university for seven or so years. I'm in my fourth year of the current sort of post-PhD employment. It's very, very, very challenging. I mean, for me, it feels like this ballot's about sort of defending the soul of the institution. Casualisation is going up. It's too much. Obviously, it's difficult. I mean, there's so many people that are casualised. I know that it has a significant impact on my mental health, impacts my home life, because I don't have the job security. This summer, I was made redundant and then rehired. So it's an awful situation to be in. It's not what I thought higher education would be, and that might sound foolish in some way, but I feel like there's no opportunity for myself to progress and many others. And it does feel extremely exploitative, and fundamentally it needs to stop. To the best of our ability, we need to challenge it. And obviously it's more challenging. A pay rise for me, I'm so poorly paid looking at those Chancellors' salaries, VC salaries earlier, massive compared to what I would get paid, even if I was on an open-ended contract. So yeah, it's a serious issue. It needs to be resolved. And if we don't fight and try to stop it now, I fear that it's just only going to get worse.
I don't think, though, that it's foolish to have thought that higher education would be different to this. And, you know, when I either do media work or when we, are doing like engagement work around our ballots, and I speak to parents and family members of students, they'd be shocked to think that you got made redundant this summer to then be re-employed. And I forget who said it earlier, because there's just, I think it was you, sorry, Amy, just a lack of any strategic planning in terms of actually managing your institution. And yet you are paid eye-watering sums to be so poor at this strategic job. So full solidarity to you, Dan. Amy, I wondered if you wanted to talk a little bit about, how important this chance is to kind of bring everyone together.
Deal. Thank you. I think for us, it's reminding people. I think that's the important message. I think particularly where we are at Bangor at the moment, as other colleagues are at other universities, that the national picture is really important because it will have a positive impact locally. And, particularly, casualisation. I'm thinking back, 20 years ago, that's how I worked in a university, with that sort of being made redundant over the summer and being rehired again. And it hasn't changed in over 20 years. It's just shocking. And, workload is horrific. So I think for us, it's thinking about, really, really buying into supporting that national strategy, and then seeing how that will impact at a local level, because there's a different way to do this. And I think one thing I've noticed over the last few months is the fear factor that's used a lot, which is to put fear into staff that if you don't go with the flow of cuts and financial savings, the worst is going to happen, because it's always somebody else's problem. That's what's happening at universities with executive teams. It's never their fault. It's always somebody else's problem. It's the government's problem, or it's the economic situation, or it's still, COVID related, without, as you said, without identifying that it's a lack of strategic thinking, it's a lack of creativity, it's a complete lack of self-awareness, so that's basically what I think, is that we just really need to buoy people up and see that the only way that we can fix this is by coming together and working together. And there are more of us than them, and that can make the change.
There certainly is, and I think on that note, if you're watching and you're voting yes and you're ready to fight, I would really love it if you could put "I'm voting yes" in the comments, and we will put them on screen. To Dan and Amy, so we have dispatched 2 workplace resource packs now to our branches. But feel free right now. Is there anything else that you want to see in terms of support from the union centrally? And Dan, I will come to you first.
Good question. No, the resource packs are really helpful. The banner that we received is huge, and yeah, we'll try and work on getting something, a picture or something with that. Just now, I'm not sure. I mean, I think these like inviting me to this platform is really helpful, and can talk about the issues of casualisation. I just think we need to keep talking about the key issues, understand how it impacts our colleagues, and keep pushing from there. So no direct further asks from me, not that I can think of immediately anyway.
Well, you can always get in touch if you wake up at 2 a.m. and think, Amy.
I echo Dan, to be honest. I think, that information is really useful. Sessions like this are amazing. I think it's about making noise. So please, continue to make noise, because we can share that, and help us to make noise. I think, having a platform for specific universities to be able to, like myself and Dan, to be part of this helps as well. But I think mainly it's making noise at the moment. It's just keep going, keep the pressure on a little bit.
Thank you. And final question from me. What would your message to other UCU members be on the need to vote and to vote yes in the ballot? Dan?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think I said it before, it's now or never. We're not, I mean, this is such a horrible pay offer, and the sector could change beyond recognition if we don't stop it now. And I think we all have a responsibility to do that. That's it. Great stuff. Amy, final words?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I think, we've passed the point of crisis now. Things are getting worse by the day, and the only way to change that is to be part of the change. So, you have to be involved, really. If you want your voice to count, you have to shout out.
Amazing. Thank you both so much for joining us. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll speak again soon. We did have another question that I wanted just to address before we maybe move on. So the question is a fair one. It is about, do we get as much buy-in from media outlets compared to other unions? Always see teachers and train drivers constantly on the agenda. This could increase bargaining power. We do get a lot of media coverage, both locally and nationally. And I think our press and comms team do a real exceptional job. Railway workers, they have immediate industrial power. They stop trains, which obviously impacts tourists, commuters, all sorts of people. And I think here is the challenge for all of us. If we want that power, if we want shut down power, we do need greater density as a union. And I have been an advocate of this for a long time. We need to win this ballot, and we need to make sure that more and more people are joining our union, so that we truly shut down workplaces if the bosses don't move. Dovrig, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that. You're on mute, Dovrig, somehow.
Sorry. Yeah, no, just to really echo that. And that's not like an answer for this week, this month, this year, is it? Like, we should always be in the business of constantly building membership, because that's how we build our power. So absolutely, like, we need to make sure that our membership density is being driven up month on month, year on year.
Yeah. We've had a really engaging session, some excellent comments and questions from members watching online. I thought Amy and Dan were amazing as well. Dovrig, I wanted to give you a chance to deliver a closing message to our members.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be just really, really brief, which is, and Amy's kind of slightly stolen some of this from me, but you know, we have to be, I think, confident in our own power. Like, as Amy said, there are more of us than there are of them, and nobody else is going to solve this crisis for us. You know, we can either keep kind of worrying and complaining and saying how bad things are, or we can do something about it, because nobody's going to ride into our rescue. The government's not going to do it. The Vice Chancellors are certainly not going to do it. And it is up to us through collective action to take a stand here. So please, you know, this is a really vitally important ballot. So please get those envelopes back in the post, but go out there, go knocking on colleagues' door. This is a recruitment exercise as much as anything else, because if we don't manage to get this ballot, then nobody else is going to come riding to our rescue.
Totally inspiring as ever, Dovrig. I'm loving your work on these lives. I never knew you were such an orator, and from a medieval throne as well this evening. Thank you so much. I mean, I'm certainly ready to vote. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has joined us tonight, who's joined online, who's participated. I think this has been an incredible session in what is the closing weeks before the ballot papers start to drop. And in terms of my closing words, I just want to say something which I know everyone watching will be feeling, that I am absolutely sick of this. I am sick of the cuts. I'm sick of the redundancies. I'm sick of the heartache of losing your best colleagues, the subsequent spike in workloads. I'm sick of hearing members like Amy talking about how exhausted everybody is, of the pressure, of the stress, of the poor pay awards that we have had for years and years now. I'm sick of the insecurity. I'm sick of hearing stories like Dan about people getting made redundant in the summer to be re-employed in the autumn. And all whilst those at the top are rewarded for what by any measure is a complete strategic failure. So ballots will be landing in around the next fortnight, and this is our best chance to deliver change this year. In fact, it is our only chance to deliver change this year. And we either accept the status quo, we accept the hypocrisy, we accept the insecurity, or we fight again as a union. And I will always choose to fight. Our Higher Education Committee has chosen to fight, and our branches have chosen to fight. So when the ballot paper does arrive, that is the day of a referendum on our sector. And not voting is backing more of the same. Voting no is backing more of the same. The only way we change this is through an absolutely massive yes vote. And it won't be easy. Ballots are never easy. But if we unite for the next 7 weeks, we can do it. So please don't miss a conversation with colleagues. Share every social media post. Get this debated in every workplace. Have the difficult conversations. But together, we can and we will do it. Because as we have heard this evening, we are the university. Good night, everyone.